The starship Mercy's light gleamed against the darkness of space, its pristine white hull adorned with the ancient symbol of healing, a red cross that had guided those in need for millennia. Captain Isabella Torres stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the approaching distress beacon. The massive hospital ship, Earth's flagship of humanitarian aid, housed over 5,000 patients from 30 different species. "Captain, we're receiving updated coordinates from the Helios mining colony," Lieutenant Kai reported, his holographic display showing a region devastated by what appeared to be a recent asteroid collision. "Their medical bay is overwhelmed. Multiple trauma cases, radiation exposure." Torres nodded, already mentally preparing for the influx of patients. "Alert Dr. Harrison. Tell him to prepare the radiation treatment chambers." "How many survivors?" "Initial estimates suggest 1,200 requiring immediate care. Our current capacity is at 90%, Captain," the ship's AI, Nightingale, interjected softly. "Then we make room," Torres said firmly. "We always do." In the shadows of a nearby debris field, War Master Vex of the Carrax Dominion observed the approaching hospital ship through narrowed eyes. His cybernetic implants processed every scan, mapping entry points and defensive weaknesses. The Carrax had ruled their sector through fear and military might for centuries until humanity's emergence changed everything. "These humans," he growled to his strategic advisor, Zextal, "they build vessels larger than our dreadnoughts, not for war, but for healing. It's an affront to the natural order." Zextal shifted uncomfortably, scales reflecting the dim light of their bridge. "War Master, the Mercy's light has treated thousands of our own people this past cycle alone. Their medical technology is wasted," Vex interrupted, his cybernetic eye pulsing with barely contained rage. "Imagine such resources devoted to proper purposes, conquest, domination, control. Instead, they squander it on the weak." His metallic claws clicked against his command throne. "The galaxy must be reminded that compassion is weakness, and weakness must be purged." Aboard the Mercy's light, Dr. Rachel Harrison moved through the trauma center with practiced efficiency. Her team was preparing for the incoming casualties, unaware they were about to become casualties themselves. She paused to check on a young Carrax patient, their scales still dull from a recent mining accident. The first blast caught them completely by surprise. The impact threw Rachel against a medical console as warning klaxons screamed to life. Through the viewport, she watched in horror as a Carrax warship decloaked, its weapon systems glowing with deadly purpose. "This is Captain Torres of the Mercy's Light," Torres's voice rang clear through the emergency channels. "We are an unarmed medical vessel. We have critical patients aboard, including your own citizens. Please cease fire immediately." The second blast tore through their primary life support systems. In the trauma center, Rachel threw herself over her young patient as emergency force fields snapped into place. Through the chaos of screams and alarms, she heard the ship's AI attempting to maintain order while initiating emergency protocols. "Attention human vessel," Vexa's voice dripped with contempt across all frequencies. "Your species' weakness ends today. Let the galaxy witness the price of compassion." In the depths of Earth's Lunar Command Center, Admiral Reina Valdez watched the attack unfold through quantum-linked feeds. Her weathered face remained expressionless as she entered her command codes, but her hands shook with carefully controlled fury. "They're targeting a hospital ship," her executive officer whispered in disbelief. "Admiral, the Prometheus Protocol " "Yes," Valdez said quietly, pressing her palm against the quantum scanner. "Activate the Shadow Fleet. All of it." Deep within asteroid fields, beneath the surfaces of seemingly dead moons, and in pocket dimensions throughout human space, warships that had remained hidden for decades began to wake. They were not the sleek, peaceful vessels that humanity showed to the galaxy, but dark, angular shapes bristling with weapons that defied conventional physics. The Mercy's Light's final transmission cut through every channel. this is Dr. Harrison. We have children in critical care. Please, we just need time to evacuate. Static consumed her words as the third blast struck. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Valdez watched the hospital ship break apart, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's full, terrible potential. We gave them hospitals, she said. Now show them why. Throughout the galaxy, quantum sensors began detecting massive energy signatures as humanity's true fleet emerged from hiding. The age of mercy was over, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. War Master Vex was still savoring his victory when the first quantum ruptures appeared. The void around his ship blazed with ethereal light as space itself parted, revealing shapes that his sensors struggled to comprehend. The vessels that emerged were unlike anything the Carracks had encountered in their 1,000-year history of warfare. War Master, Zextal's voice cracked with fear, were detecting similar ruptures throughout Carrack space. They're appearing above every major world in our empire. The human ships were obsidian arrows against the stars, their hulls seeming to drink in light rather than reflect it. No communication arrays, no visible weapon ports, just smooth angular surfaces that defied traditional naval architecture. They moved with impossible precision, forming complex geometric patterns around Vex's fleet. Impossible, Vex whispered, his cybernetic eye rapidly processing the sensor data. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They build hospital ships, not dash. This is Fleet Admiral Imani Wright of the Earth Defense Force Shadow Fleet, a cold voice cut through every frequency. Each word carried the weight of carefully restrained fury. You targeted our mercy. You murdered our healers. You killed children under our protection. On the bridge of the EDF Nemesis, Admiral Wright stood motionless, her silver-threaded dreadlocks reflecting the tactical displays that surrounded her. The quantum AI merged with her consciousness through her neural interface, showing her everything, every Carrack ship, every population center, every strategic asset in their empire. They're powering weapons, her XO reported unnecessarily. The quantum link had already shown her the energy buildups in the Carrack's vessels. Let them, Wright replied softly. Show them. The first Carrack shot passed harmlessly through the space where the Nemesis had been, the ship having shifted between quantum states before the energy beam could connect. Around the battlefield, other human vessels performed similar feats, appearing to phase in and out of reality itself. Impossible. Vex roared as his weapons found no purchase. No species has mastered quantum state shifting. The energy requirements alone dash. That's why we appeared primitive, Zextal whispered, finally understanding. They weren't behind us technologically. They were so far ahead that they could afford to show us only their mercy. Throughout Carrack space, the dark human vessels maintained their silent vigil. No weapons fired, no demands made. They simply waited, their presence a reminder of power held in check. Admiral Wright's voice returned, accompanied by a transmission that made Vex's cybernetic implants surge with fear, medical logs from the Mercy's Light's final moments. He watched Dr. Harrison using her own body to shield alien children. He saw Captain Torres's last act, diverting power to the stasis fields around critical patients rather than the shields that might have saved her own life. We chose mercy, Wright continued, because we had mastered war so completely that we could afford to. Your attack didn't reveal our weakness, War Master. It simply ended our commitment to showing you only our kindness. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Valdez received the quantum-encrypted updates. The Shadow Fleet had achieved position around every strategic target in Carrack space. The entire operation had taken less than 10 minutes. Admiral, her XO reported, the Carrack's High Council is requesting emergency communication. They're offering unconditional surrender. Valdez thought of the Mercy's Light's final transmission, of the patients and medical staff who had died believing in humanity's pledge to do no harm. Tell Admiral Wright she has full operational discretion. The galaxy will learn why Earth's hospital ships traveled unescorted. On the Nemesis, Imani Wright received the authorization she had been waiting for. War Master Vex, she broadcast, you will witness the difference between those who choose not to harm and those who cannot be harmed at all. Your empire has 1 hour to evacuate all medical facilities. We would hate to be accused of targeting hospitals. As the countdown began, Vex finally understood the terrible truth. Humanity hadn't built its civilization on healing because they were weak. They had built it on healing because they were so unfathomably strong that they could afford to focus on mercy. And he had just shown them a reason to demonstrate why. The next 45 minutes saw the greatest mass evacuation in Carrick's history. Medical facilities were cleared with desperate efficiency as the dark human vessels maintained their silent vigil. Through it all, the quantum-transmitted sounds of the Mercy's Light's final moments played on every frequency, medical alerts, emergency protocols, and the voices of those who had died trying to save others. In the Carrick's capital of Nexus Prime, High Commander Krall watched the evacuation with growing dread. The tactical displays showed human vessels in perfect formation above every major population center, their presence a reminder of how completely they had infiltrated Carrick space without detection. How long have they had this capability? She demanded of her strategic council. How did we miss this level of technological advancement? We didn't miss it, her chief scientist replied, neural implants flickering with nervous energy. They showed us exactly what they wanted us to see. Every diplomatic exchange, every technological sharing program, they were testing us, watching how we would use their medical knowledge. As the countdown continued, humanity faced its own crucible. The power to devastate an empire hung in the balance, justified by the laws of war and the demands of vengeance. But another voice spoke through the quantum link, the archived words of Captain Torres during the Mercy's Light's commissioning ceremony. We build hospitals in space because we can. We heal without question because we should. Our strength isn't measured by our capacity for destruction, but by our choice to preserve life. 10 minutes remained in the countdown when Admiral Wright received an unexpected quantum transmission. The face that appeared in her neural interface was one of the few survivors of the Mercy's Light, Dr. Thomas Nash, his face bearing fresh burns but his eyes clear with purpose. Admiral, Nash's voice was weak but determined. Before you act, there's something you need to see. He transmitted his final recordings from the hospital ship, showing not just the attack, but what came before, Carrick's children playing in the recovery ward, their parents' gratitude, the bonds formed between species through the simple act of healing. Wright watched in silence, her expression unreadable. They still murdered our people, Doctor. They targeted a hospital ship. Yes, Nash agreed, and they deserve consequences. But if we respond with equal brutality, we lose something more precious than lives. We lose the very thing that makes us human. Throughout Carrick space, the evacuation had become chaotic. Refugees crowded onto transport ships, military vessels converted to emergency medical transports. The Carricks, for all their martial pride, were learning the difference between wielding power and facing it. In a desperate bid to protect their homeworld, the Carrick's military attempted to position their fleet between the human vessels and their planet. The Shadow Fleet ships simply phased through them, maintaining their positions without firing a single shot. 7 minutes, Wright's voice echoed across space. Perhaps now you understand why we never needed escorts for our hospital ships. Why we could focus on healing while maintaining the most powerful fleet in known space. On the Carrick's homeworld, in the depths of the Imperial Command bunker, High Commander Krall made a decision that would reshape their civilization. Breaking centuries of protocol, she opened a direct channel to the Nemesis. Admiral Wright, her voice carried across quantum space, I speak for the entire Carrick's dominion. We surrender unconditionally. Our fate is in your hands. In the quantum silence that followed, humanity faced its greatest test. The power to devastate an empire hung in the balance, justified by the laws of war and the demands of vengeance. But through the quantum link, Wright sensed something else: fear, yes, but also recognition. The Carracks were finally beginning to understand. "Commander Krall," Wright responded, her voice carrying an edge that made even hardened warriors tremble, "you will bear witness to humanity's response. All Carracks vessels, maintain your current positions." The obsidian ships of the Shadow Fleet began to move in perfect synchronization. From their hulls emerged not weapon ports but medical deployment pods, hundreds of them, descending toward the evacuated medical facilities. "You destroyed one hospital ship," Wright continued, "so we will build you 1,000 more. You showed us destruction, we will show you transformation." The pods touched down, unfolding into advanced medical facilities that surpassed anything the Carracks had ever seen: quantum-linked diagnostic systems, regeneration chambers, neural reconstruction units. Technology that humanity had kept hidden not for war, but for healing. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Valdez watched the deployment with quiet satisfaction. "Send in the medical teams," she ordered. "All of them." Across Carrack space, the dark warships opened their hangar bays. But instead of fighters, they launched medical shuttles. Human doctors, nurses, and specialists emerged, led by the survivors of the Mercy's Light. Among them was Dr. Nash, his determination to heal unchanged by the scars he now bore. "Your population centers are in chaos from the evacuation," Wright announced. "Your medical infrastructure is severely compromised. You will now witness why Earth's greatest achievement was not our mastery of war, but our dedication to healing." On Nexus Prime, High Commander Krall watched in stunned silence as human medical teams began treating the injured and displaced. The advanced facilities they deployed were beyond anything the Carracks had imagined possible. "Why?" she finally asked through the quantum link. "After what we did." "Because that's what healers do," Wright replied. "We fix what's broken. Even if what's broken tried to break us first." Throughout the Carracks worlds, the scene repeated itself. The dark ships that had brought such terror now became beacons of hope, their medical teams working tirelessly to aid those affected by the evacuation. The advanced facilities they deployed began transforming Carrack's medical care, introducing technologies that would save millions of lives. Dr. Nash found himself treating the same Carrack's children he had helped aboard the Mercy's Light, their frightened eyes now filled with wonder at the capabilities of the new medical centers. As he worked, he heard Admiral Wright's voice one final time across the quantum channels. "Let this be remembered as the day the Carracks learned why humanity chose to show you our hospitals first. Not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to choose healing over harm. Remember this when you look to the stars and see our ships. Remember that we could have brought you destruction, but we chose to bring you life instead." The Shadow Fleet remained in position, their dark hulls now casting shadows over hospitals instead of military targets. They served as a reminder not just of humanity's power, but of their choice, their continuous, deliberate choice to use that power for healing rather than harm. 3 days after humanity's revelation of their true power, the galaxy was still struggling to process the implications. The Carracks Empire, once the epitome of martial might, had been transformed not by destruction but by an overwhelming display of medical superiority. War Master Vex stood in the observation dome of the newly established Quantum Medical Center on Nexus Prime, watching human doctors work alongside Carrack's medical staff. His cybernetic eye recorded everything, the seamless integration of technologies centuries beyond what he'd thought possible, the easy cooperation between species that had been on the brink of war mere days ago. "Remarkable, isn't it?" The voice belonged to Dr. Nash, who approached with quiet confidence despite the burn still visible on his face. "Your people's neural integration capabilities combined with our quantum healing matrices. We're achieving recovery rates that would have been impossible just a week ago." Vex turned, his mechanical parts whirring softly. "Why are you here, human?" "I gave the order that killed your shipmates, destroyed your vessel." "Because healing isn't just about mending bodies," Nash replied, activating a holographic display of patient data. Sometimes it's about mending minds, changing perspectives. Look at these numbers. Your people's combat enhancement procedures used to have a 40% mortality rate. With our combined technologies, we've reduced that to less than 2%. Throughout the Carrack's worlds, similar scenes were playing out. The Shadow Fleet remained in orbit, their dark hulls now housing not just medical facilities but educational centers where human doctors shared their knowledge with Carrack's healers. The message was clear: this was not just aid, but transformation. Admiral Wright, aboard the Nemesis, received continuous updates through her quantum interface. The medical integration was proceeding faster than anyone had anticipated, with Carrack's military technology proving surprisingly adaptable to healing applications. Their warrior ethics, her XO observed, they're not abandoning them entirely. They're evolving them. Wright nodded, watching as another group of former Carrack's warships was converted into hospital vessels. They're learning what we learned centuries ago, that the greatest victory isn't in defeating an enemy, but in turning them into allies. In the depths of the Imperial Command bunker, High Commander Krall faced her own challenges. The military hardliners were demanding resistance, calling the medical integration a subtle form of conquest. But the numbers couldn't be denied. In just 3 days, more Carrack's lives had been saved by human medical technology than had been lost in the last decade of military conflicts. "You don't understand," she told her war council, displaying the latest reports. "We're not being conquered. We're being uplifted. The humans could have destroyed us. Instead, they're showing us how to be stronger in ways we never considered." The transformation wasn't limited to medicine. As human quantum technology integrated with Carrack systems, new possibilities emerged. Their military enhancement procedures, once focused solely on creating better warriors, were being repurposed to heal genetic defects. Combat simulation chambers were converted into rehabilitation centers, where injured soldiers learned to use their cybernetic implants for healing rather than harm. Dr. Nash found himself working closely with Zextal, Vexa's former strategic advisor, who had shown an unexpected aptitude for medical administration. Together, they established protocols for converting more Carrack's military facilities into medical centers. "Your people's efficiency in warfare," Nash noted as they worked, "it translates remarkably well to medical logistics. You can move thousands of troops across space in hours. Imagine doing the same for medical emergencies." Zextal's scales shifted in what Nash had learned was a sign of deep thought. "We've always prided ourselves on military precision. But this is a different kind of power. When we save a life instead of taking one, the victory feels more complete," Nash finished. "Because you're not just winning a battle. You're winning a future." The Shadow Fleet's presence remained a constant reminder of humanity's capacity for both mercy and might. But as the days passed, the dark ships began taking on new roles. Their quantum drives, once used to position them for military advantage, now allowed them to respond to medical emergencies across the Empire with unprecedented speed. Admiral Wright received a priority communication from Earth Command. The quantum feed showed Admiral Valdez, her expression thoughtful. "The other galactic powers are watching, Imani. They're seeing not just our technology, but our choice in how to use it. The Carracks were the most militant species in known space. Their transformation will echo across the galaxy," Wright finished. "Every race that thought strength only came through warfare is being forced to reevaluate. We're not just changing the Carracks, we're changing the definition of power itself." In one of the new medical centers, a young Carrack's child with freshly healed cybernetic implants approached Dr. Nash. The child's scales shimmered with health, the neural interfaces glowing with soft blue light instead of the traditional warrior red. "My implants," the child said, touching them gently, "they were supposed to make me a better warrior. But now they help me feel when others are hurt, so I can help them. Is this what human power feels like?" Nash knelt beside the child, remembering the terror aboard the Mercy's light, the lives lost, and the greater victory that had emerged from that tragedy. No, little one. This is what human and Karek's power feels like together. This is what happens when we choose to heal. 1 month after the transformation of the Karek's empire began, representatives from every major galactic civilization gathered at the newly constructed Mercy's Memorial Hospital on Nexus Prime. The massive medical complex stood where the Karek's Imperial Military Academy had once trained warriors, its quantum-enhanced healing chambers and regeneration units serving as a testament to the power of change. Admiral Wright stood at the observation deck, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Her quantum interface highlighted each vessel, former enemies and cautious allies alike, all coming to witness what many were calling the Great Transformation. They're not just here to see our medical technology, her XO noted, gesturing to the assembled fleet. They're here to understand why we hid our true capabilities for so long. Then let's show them, Wright replied, activating the quantum broadcast network that would carry her words to every corner of known space. In the memorial hall of the hospital, Dr. Nash stood before the gathered representatives. Behind him, a quantum projection showed the final moments of the Mercy's light, but now those images were interwoven with scenes of healing and transformation from the past month. 1 month ago, he began, his scars visible proof of the story he told, we lost a hospital ship. We lost friends, colleagues, healers who had dedicated their lives to helping others. The galaxy expected revenge. Many waited for humanity to unleash the terrible weapons we had kept hidden. In the audience, War Master Vex sat beside High Commander Krau, both of them wearing the new insignia of the Karek's Medical Corps. Their cybernetic implants gleamed with the blue light of healers rather than the red of warriors. Instead, Nash continued, we revealed our true strength. Not in the warships we had hidden, but in our unwavering commitment to healing. Even those who had hurt us. Especially those who had hurt us. The quantum projection shifted, showing the Shadow Fleet's transformation. The dark ships that had brought such fear now served as mobile hospitals, their advanced technology saving lives across Karak space and beyond. High Commander Krau stood, her voice carrying the weight of her people's transformation. We thought we understood power. We measured it in weapons, in the ability to destroy. Humanity showed us that true power lies in the ability to heal, to transform, to make whole what was broken. From orbit, Admiral Wright added her voice to the transmission. The Shadow Fleet wasn't built for war. It was built to protect our choice for peace. We hid our true capabilities not out of fear, but because we wanted to give every species the chance to choose healing over harm on their own terms. The quantum projection displayed new statistics, mortality rates plummeting across Karak space, former military facilities transformed into centers of healing, warrior enhancement technologies repurposed for medical breakthroughs. But more striking were the cultural changes, Karak's children now trained in medical arts alongside combat skills, their society's warrior ethic evolving to protect life rather than take it. This is not the end of Karak's strength, Vex declared, standing beside Krau. It is its evolution. We are still warriors, but now we fight against death itself, against suffering, against the true enemies that all species face together. The gathering became a turning point in galactic history. As species after species witnessed the transformation of the mighty Karak's empire, they began to understand the true message humanity had been trying to send since their emergence onto the galactic stage. A young Karak's healer, one of many who had embraced the new path, approached Dr. Nash after the ceremony. The archives show that Earth once had warriors too, she said. That you fought terrible wars among yourselves. How did you change? Nash smiled, touching the scars that he had chosen not to have removed. We didn't stop being warriors, he explained. We just found better battles to fight. Every life saved is a victory. Every person healed is a battle won. Every disease cured is an empire conquered. In orbit, the Shadow Fleet began to disperse, but not to hide again. Instead, they moved out across the galaxy openly, their true purpose finally revealed, not as weapons of war, but as guardians of peace, ensuring that the path of healing remained open to all who would choose it. Admiral Wright received one final communication from Earth Command. Admiral Valdez's quantum projection smiled as she delivered the news. The Galactic Council has ratified the Mercy's protocol. Every major species has pledged to dedicate their primary resources to healing rather than harm. They're calling it the greatest peace initiative in known history. Peace through healing, Wright mused, watching the memorial lights of the new hospital complex shine like stars against the night side of Nexus Prime. Not through fear or force, but through the simple act of helping others. On the surface, Dr. Nash prepared to train another group of Carrick's medical students. Among them was Vexa's own child, their cybernetic implants already tuned to detect illness rather than weakness. Remember, Nash told them, his words echoing the lesson humanity had spent centuries learning, the greatest power isn't in deciding who deserves to be healed. It's in healing despite everything that says you shouldn't. That's what makes us not just healers, but human. The stars shone down on a galaxy forever changed, not by the revelation of humanity's hidden might, but by the demonstration of their chosen path. The Mercy's light had been destroyed, but its spirit had transformed an empire and ignited a revolution of compassion that would ripple through the cosmos for generations to come. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon had not been their quantum ships or hidden fleets, but their unwavering belief that mercy was not a weakness to be hidden, but a strength to be shared. And in sharing it, they had achieved what no weapon could, they had changed the very meaning of power itself.